scoring position. The only hit you got was the infield single from Toro that didn't even score a run. He just legged it out. You got to find some offense here, over here. You got to find it soon.
Oh, Rafi's face at the end of that montage says it all. Welcome in. The Boston has entered the chat. Travis Thomas here. Bromance unfurling. Adam Pellerin, my friend. Good to have you on. Thanks for waking up early for us,
nice
my man.
gentlemanly handshake.
How about that?
The show. It's been a while since we've done one.
It's been too damn long.
It has been, man.
I told him yesterday, I saw him in the content center here at Nesson, and I said, hey, man, I'm going to bed early tonight for you. Like, I am ready. Tomorrow morning, we are shot out of a cannon. He's ready.
This guy's yelling at me at the parking lot when I'm pulling in.
It's true. It's true.
Unbelievable.
It's true. So we'll discuss yet another heartbreaking loss for the Sox, walk-off style. Christian Yelich, first career walk-off, which is surprising for a great player like him. But the Sox, yet again, on the wrong side of history, it felt like, as this team continues to lose one-run games. So we have that and plenty more coming up for you, right, Adam?
Another brutal loss for the Red Sox. Meanwhile, in Foxborough, we're talking about the Patriots, right? OTAs continuing, and high expectations, I would say, for Mike Vrabel and Drake May, right? I mean, I think a lot of people are talking maybe postseason for this Patriots team. But with that said, you have a lot of new faces too, right? And so there could be some players from the offensive side, anyway, that could be on the hot seat.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I think that you look at some of the guys that are on the roster last year, and there are new faces on the roster, and there could be some guys who might not have a job once training camp comes around.
Some guys' seats are hot. Some guys' seats are preheating. And remember this, you can catch us on Nesson at 8 a.m. every day and Nesson Nation at 9 a.m. as well. And we always say this, we are interactive. Email us, thechat@nesson.com. Tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat. Or call us, 617-790-0928. We want to hear from you as well, and we definitely want to hear from you about these Sox. Let's dive in. What's trending? Top 3 stories in sports right now in our lives, and we'll start there with the Sox. Adam, again, I feel like this is Groundhog's Day, where I'm watching these games. They have them right there. They're on the ropes, and it feels like, okay, here we go. And then right at the end, victory is snatched from you. 10th inning walk-off grand slam by Christian Yelich, as I mentioned off the top. 4th loss in a row now for the Sox, Adam.
Yeah, and you heard Lou in his analysis after the walk-off that it's all about the offense again, right? They've scored 5 runs in their last 37 innings. I mean, that's not going to get it done. And I know you can point to a lot of reasons why. You can point to the fact that Alex Bregman just got hurt. He was your best offensive player outside of Rafael Devers. Tristan Casas went down with the injury. I mean, that was your 3 and 4 hitter to start the year.
That's right.
So you can start right there. But I would go a step further and say, well, there's obviously guys in the lineup that have underperformed. And you can look at Trevor Story. Case in point, got an OPS under 600, 0 for 4 once again last night. Christian Campbell is a guy that got off to a great start. And I know he's a rookie, and you're going to have
ups and downs.
But you counted on him at the beginning of the year. He's underperformed. Cedar Rafaela, I love seeing him out in center field, but at the plate, he just hasn't gotten it done. I know he had a double last night, but he has not performed offensively. And so, yes, it's about the offense, but it's something that Jonathan Papelbon had said during the postgame show after the loss to the finale to the Orioles. It's the fact that they're not in sync. Starting pitching's been a problem, but when you get good starting pitching, your offense slumps.
The bats.
Right? Yeah. Starting pitching, your offense is good. Maybe your defense and bullpen not getting it done.
Peanut butter, no jelly.
Yeah, they haven't been able to gel yet.
Well, it's funny because you and I have covered sports for as long as we have, and we've seen teams in all sports that have this, where it's like something's off. The talent's there, they're in games, but they can't put it all together at the same time. And then what generally happens is a light bulb goes off, something happens, they figure it out. The issue I'm having from our standpoint is I sit here every day and I'm like, what is that thing?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen teams rattle off these crazy win streaks and turn their season around because they're a talented team. But then I've also seen the other side where we have to talk about this, as depressing as it is. If this continues to happen, are we all of a sudden having a conversation of, hey, when we get to the trade deadline, they're going to be offloading pieces, which I would have never thought about coming into the season. So I don't know what it is to turn it around. But this team's too talented for this to keep happening, Adam. And I know Alex Cora is a person who, in theory, should have all the answers. He doesn't because it keeps happening. And I don't know how you fix it. I don't. But that look on Rafi, after that walk-off, says it all.
Here
it's
we
how
go
we all,
again.
yes, it's how we all feel. I don't know how they fix it, but they must figure it out. All right, in other news, reports are bubbling now that the Bruins have narrowed down and zeroed in on former Bruins player Marco Sturm to become their next head coach. I know you're dialed into this. Are you hearing anything? I mean, here are the tweets here. So this Cam Robinson gentleman was the first one to come out and really say definitively that he's hearing this. It's really pretty much inevitable at this point. We shall see, though.
Yeah, the reports are coming out at this point. We're getting close, right? There was a report that they had finalized 3 candidates, right?
Right.
They're sort of going through the final interview stages with those as well. You've heard Mitch Love, who's an assistant with the Capitals, and you've also heard Jay Woodcroft, who is a former Oilers coach. And you've seen reports out there that Woodcroft could be the guy, right? Yeah. But in terms of Marco Sturm, obviously there's familiarity there. He's a former Bruin, famously a part of the Joe Thornton trade. Has been in this head coach for the Ontario Reign, which is the Kings affiliate, for the last 3 years. We talked to Andrew Ferentz about him. And didn't know what he was in terms of a head coach, right? Because he was a teammate of Sturm. But, it just talked about him being a competitor, right? And a guy that wished he could have been there for the 2011 Cup run and obviously was not. But real professional, serious, always in great shape. Effort, preparation. And the effort and preparation part is what stood out to me when we were talking to Ferentz. Because those are transferable skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? When you talk about effort and preparedness from a player's perspective, those are the same traits, that you look for in a head coach, among many.
Yeah, well, this is a younger team now. So I wonder if you bring in a guy who really can sort of set a culture. We talk about this a lot with Mike Vrabel with the Patriots. That's a young team as well. If this is sort of a retooling, we don't like the rebuild word, I understand. If it's a retooling, don't you need someone who can come in and sort of establish a culture? And a lot of those traits you just named is exactly what establishing a culture is, right?
No question about that.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on then. Pacers defeat the Knicks 130-121. They now take a commanding 3-1 series lead going back to New York. How about Halliburton last night? What the Halliburton? Historic night for Tyrese Halliburton. 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds. Sounds like a video game, Adam.
Yep.
Halliburton becomes just the 3rd player in history with 30 points, 15 assists, 10 boards in a playoff game, triple-double style. Best part is his dad was there to watch it all after being banned for not knowing how to act. Pacers are for real. They are. I actually thought the Knicks would win this series. I was completely wrong. I thought the Knicks would sort of take the page that they had to beat the Celtics. Physicality, making adjustments on the fly. I mean, we saw Missoula get out-coached. I thought they would kind of bring that into the Pacers series, sort of that toughness defense. That has not been the case. They have played at the Pacers' pace, pun intended, and I think that's why they're down in the series, about to be done and go home forever.
Celtics should have beat the Knicks.
Thank you.
Right? I mean, that's what it comes down to when I'm watching this unfold. It's just, the Celtics obviously lost the series in the first 2 games at home. Yeah. Right? Where they had 20-point leads in each of those first 2 games. Obviously, the Tatum injury was the nail in the coffin, but, they should have won those 2 games. They had a double-digit lead in Game 4, too, in New York, right? Probably should have won that game, too.
Yep.
And that's all I can think of is what could have been. With the Celtics, because I think they would have been able to beat this Pacers team. I don't know if you get to the NBA Finals and then you face, probably Oklahoma City at that point, how that would have played out. That would have been an interesting matchup. Not sure if the Celtics would have been able to complete that.
Doesn't
and
feel
go back to back. No, it doesn't feel it, right, based on what we saw.
Right.
But, yeah, I was thinking at least they'd get by the Knicks, get by the Pacers, and then see what happens in the final.
Listen, the way the Pacers are playing right now, it gives me a little cause to pause to fully agree with you. Yeah. Where I do agree is they should have won the Knicks series.
Right.
And look, I'm not going to go as far as to call the Knicks frauds like I know a lot of people in town have, but that's only because Knicks fans are obnoxious. The team they're not fugazi. However, Rick Carlisle is why the Pacers, and Halliburton obviously, but Rick Carlisle is why the Pacers are up in the series. He's doing the things to the Knicks that Joe Mazzulla could have done, but didn't. He's attacking Brunson. He's attacking Cat. He's getting these guys in foul trouble early. And I talked about the pace. That plays into this. The Celtics could have done all these things to the Knicks, Adam. They didn't do it. So I'm with you there. But right now, the way the Pacers are playing, it almost damn near feels like it might be their time. I mean, everything's just working for them. Everything. The offense, their barn is crazy. Playing in their arena, we don't talk about it like a MSG or even a TD Garden. That home court is real. This team, I think, has it going on, and Carlisle is a big reason why.
They're going to be huge dogs going in the NBA Finals.
I know. By the way, ratings, awful. Thunder Pacers,
not great.
Who gives a rat's patootie about that? What are the storylines?
Yeah, NBA not loving.
Oh.
Yeah.
Coming up on Boston Has Entered the Chat, we'll dive even deeper to last night's walk-off loss for the Sox. So roll with us here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. And remember, get the latest up-to-date live. We've got Boston sports headlines, along with your daily dose of trending sports and social topics every weekday on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Catch us live at 8 a.m. on NESN and 9 a.m. on NESN Nation every Monday through Friday. Here we go. Welcome back to Boston Has Entered the Chat. Travis Thomas, Adam Pellerin. We were just discussing even in break. We're going to do it with you now. 5-1, Heartbreak City, Christian Yelich, boop, walk-off, grand slam. 4 losses in a row now for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
How do we make this stop, Adam Pellerin?
Score some runs.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Score some runs.
Score some runs.
That would
be
help.
step one, right? Step two would be to, maybe get everybody in sync. And I think we were talking about this in trending, right? When they've had bad starts from starting pitching. Offense has done okay. When they've had good starts from starting pitching, offense has gone silent, right?
Yeah.
It's off, right? And you alluded to this. You can't quite put your finger on it.
No.
I think it's because it's multiple things. I think, you look. All right, we'll start here with the Red Sox roster, right? 81-81 last year. They address needs. They go out and they get Garrett Crochet.
Yeah.
They get Alex Bregman. They get Aroldis Chapman. They get a lefty in your bullpen and Justin Wilson, right?
They've all played well.
So they've all done well.
They've all done well. The offseason check.
Right. Rafi, slow start.
Yes.
Came out of it, is mashing. Willie Abreu, Gold Glove last year, offensively, OPS over 800. He's doing fine. Jarren Duran, slow start. He's starting to emerge.
He is.
Trevor Story.
Yeah.
Right? The injury to Tristan Casas.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Casas got off to a slow start.
He did.
Right? So you have that.
Bregman injury.
Yeah, Bregman injury. And I didn't even mention, by the way, Carlos Narvaez, who's been the
Also,
great story of the
another
year.
offseason. So another offseason move.
Right. So it's some of the guys that were on the roster.
Yes.
Last year that you had high hopes for, this year have not come through. And it's not just offensively, it's on the mound too.
That's right.
Tanner Houck.
Yeah.
Tanner Houck, ERA over 8. This was a guy that we were talking about last year as a Cy Young candidate in the first half of the year.
That's right.
Tailed off towards the end of the year. But then this year, you don't know what happened with him, right?
You don't.
Brian Bayo started the year on the shelf. Came out okay. He hasn't been able to get out of the 5th inning these last 4 starts.
No.
So those 2 guys in the rotation. Giolito's sort of been up and down. Yeah. He's coming off the Tommy John. Garrett Crochet's been great.
Buehler's been good when healthy.
Right. Buehler's been good. So, and then you go to the bullpen. Again, we mentioned Chapman and Wilson. Beyond that, it's been sort of inconsistent for the most part.
Yeah.
The one guy that you really wanted to see dominate coming out of the pen was Garrett Whitlock.
Right.
Garrett Whitlock's not been able to do that, and I think a lot of people forget. He's coming off that internal brace procedure. Not to make excuses, just reality. The guy's not sharp.
That's right.
Right? I mean, he's got great stuff, but he's not sharp. He's missing locations, not able to put guys away. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that happen in untimely moments. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a lot of the reason why the Red Sox, they have the most one-run losses in baseball at this point. Last night was a one-run loss, but it was a 1-1 game going to the 10th.
It was another close game.
Right, another close game.
Yeah, listen, I think you're preaching. I will say this. I've come to the side of, and I've heard a lot of Red Sox fans echo this, and I'm curious your thoughts. Why not bring up a Roman Anthony at this point? Hey, if we're looking for positives, Marcelo Meyer last night, was it 2 hits? I mean, the guy swinging the bat, I'm not saying they're going to fix everything, the young pups, but why not? Bring them all. Why not? And what I've been saying on this show every morning to George, and we've been yelling about it because he disagrees with me, but I'm like, even if it's a spark, even if it's just something, because you and I have just went back and forth, what is it? Well, this is happening, but this isn't happening. And then when this happens, this is, okay, bring up a Roman Anthony. Meyer's already here, and just see what it does. I also think it gives you a little bit more versatility in your lineup, a little bit. Maybe Cora can tinker, put a guy here, put a guy there. But I'm out of suggestions for how to turn it around. That's the last thing on the board that hasn't been done. Does that make sense?
It does.
So why not exercise that and see what happens?
All right.
It's putting a lot of pressure on the young guys to turn it around.
Sure.
But hell, what do you have to lose at this point?
Well, the reason Marcelo Meyer got called up is because of the injury to Alex Bregman.
That's right.
So that's why he got the call. If you have an injury in the outfield, Roman Anthony would be the next guy in line. Now, calling him up before that, all right.
Which is what I'm calling for.
Exactly. So what's that gonna look like, I guess is the question, right? Because your outfield's full right now.
Right.
With Duran and Rafaela and Abreu. You got Ref Snyder, the right-handed bat, coming off the bench, right?
Right.
I understand that maybe you want to have some sort of spark, but the question is, what are you gonna do with a Rafaela?
Sure.
Right? And then, is he going to be a super utility type of player?
Right.
Because he can play the infield, he can play second base, he can play shortstop. There's even talk of him potentially, being an option at third if needed.
Yeah.
So, okay, if that's the case, then all right, you add another left-handed bat to the lineup, and you're taking another right-handed bat. So you're very lefty-heavy.
Yeah, you are at that point.
Right? You're very lefty. And again, not to say that this should discourage you. It's just the reality of what the roster would look like.
Sure.
Right? Because you just brought up Myers, a left-handed bat. I mean, you're essentially a left-handed bat all the way around the diamond, with the exception of Narvaez, Trevor Story. Abraham Toro's a switch. Yeah, I don't know what that would look like. And in terms of Anthony being ready, everybody says he's ready to go.
He looks ready to me.
Yeah, he does, right? Now it's AAA and it's not 4A. It's Major League Baseball.
That's
There's
right.
a huge distinction.
Of course.
There's a huge jump.
He had a jack last night, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
We've seen this with Christian Campbell too, where he comes out, he's on fire,
Yeah.
and then Major League Baseball catches up with him a little bit.
For
and so you hope that he'll make the adjustment, because the game's all about adjustments.
Yeah. I guess, yes. Okay, you're right, because you're taking the same position as George. Where I'm at is, even if it doesn't provide a spark, let's go there. And you're lefty heavy, and what do you do with the lineup? Okay. My thing is, if this team can't turn it around, and this season is a wash, we don't know if that's going to happen, but let's go with it for the sake of the conversation. You've just pretty much moved up your timeline with these young guys. They're going to be more acclimated, ready to go, and you build around them moving forward, whatever that looks like. We don't have the answers there.
Right.
Let me re-ask the question then, if it's not bringing up a Roman Anthony for a spark. Can you win this afternoon and not get swept by the Brewers? Is that, now it might be a match. It may not be the flamethrower as a spark, but is that something? We don't get swept. We got to win. We stop the bleeding. We stop a 4-game losing streak here.
Absolutely.
Because, Adam, I'm looking at this schedule, my brother. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. Atlanta next in their place. Thank God you see the Angels for 3, and then here come the mighty Yankees, and you're in their house.
Well,
so
yeah.
This schedule doesn't do you any favors outside the Angels.
No, it doesn't.
So you have to. Don't you have to stop the bleeding? Could today help and provide a little bit of a spark?
Of course it could. Of course it could, because you got Brian Bayo on the mound, and we mentioned Bayo not pitching well.
He needs a good outing.
Right, needs a good outing.
Yeah.
So Bayo gives you a good outing. Maybe the offense goes off a little bit. And by the way, you're facing Freddie Peralta, who's had a great year.
Right.
Right. So it's not
going to be easy.
Yeah, and you got a Brewers team that's feeling good about themselves, looking to put the nail in the coffin today with a sweep.
They're looking for their own spark.
Right. Exactly, because they were like under 500
That's right.
when the season this series started.
Yeah, they're kind of similar team.
Right. So you get the win today. You get the off day tomorrow, and then you go into the series against the Braves. Right. And so,
who you did play well at Fenway. You played well against.
Yeah, Braves took 2 out of 3, but game 1 was a battle between Crochet and Sale.
That's right.
And then game 2, Rafi and the great comeback, and you thought that was going to be a spark, right?
I did.
Off, and then they end up losing 10-4 the next day.
It's just, that's the point.
Yeah.
No ham, no burger.
Right.
It's like, why can't we put it together? Now, Alana Rizzo was on here yesterday.
Yep.
And I think my question point blank was like, give us something positive.
Yeah.
And she said it's May. And I go, okay,
Yeah.
I get that. There is still a lot of baseball left to be played.
Right. But you don't want to bury yourself too deeply. Now, I
yes.
will say this. Red Sox were right in it at the trade deadline the last couple of years.
That's right.
Right in the mix, right?
That's right.
And then they fell off. It was all about August and September for this team the last couple of years.
Yes.
Right? They've been around
Fringe.
this record each of the last few seasons, right? And then they've been able to rattle off some wins. It can still happen, right? The Bregman injury is a huge blow. The Casas injury is a huge blow, even though he got off to a slow start. Those are things that you didn't have the last few seasons. I know Story got hurt and there was a hole at shortstop, but the way Bregman was swinging it and to lose 2 guys.
Bregman's a leader, too.
Yeah.
That kills you.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
He kills you.
He's just as important in the clubhouse as he is.
That's right.
On the field.
That's right.
So it's not going to be easy. It's not. And that third wild card is a blessing, right? Because
look now.
You're looking at the division and you're looking at the Yankees, and then you're looking at what the Central's doing this year, right? Between the Tigers and the Royals and the Guardians.
It's
and
the same
Twins
teams.
All of a sudden come back.
I'm looking at the wild card. It's literally the same teams. It's the same years. It's Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, right.
It's Twins. It's Guardians. It's Astros. It's Royals. Right. And we're right back here again.
Yeah.
Oh, my
God.
God.
I know.
I'll tell you what, if this is Groundhog's Day, I'm glad I got you, man.
We'll just keep reliving this. We'll just keep rattling off the stats of guys that haven't
can we hear from you, please? We need answers. Email us at chat@nesson.com. Tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat. Call us 617-790-0928. How do you fix it? I mean, right now, Adam and I feel like with the Sox, it's Groundhog's Day. How do you help us out? How do we get out of this? How do we stop this losing streak? Could happen today.
I did hear.
Could happen today.
Our guy on Twitter, Red, he said maybe the Brewers' loss is rock bottom, like Bane breaking Batman's back, and then after that, the Dark Knight rises. Maybe that's it. Maybe we've reached rock bottom and Batman is about to ascend from the caves.
Celtics talk next. Save the date. The WEEI Nesson Jimmy Fund Radio Telethon presented by Arbella Insurance is August 18th and 19th. Go and donate. There's a website. Help K Cancer. Hey, welcome back to Boston has entered the chat. All right, Adam, it's your favorite portion of the show. We're talking basketball. Okay, now, Shams was on, it's over. Shams was on Pat McAfee yesterday. Mm-hmm. He told the national media what we've been talking about every day around town. Mm-hmm. I mean, Captain Obvious here. Shams, Mr.
Great
Know-It-All.
insider.
Yeah, great insider. He basically said, hey, the Celtics are going to be making some real wholesale changes this offseason. No Shaq, Sherlock. Take a listen.
They're going to make trades. The Boston Celtics will have a much different roster next season, potentially. They'll definitely have a different roster. The question is just how severe, as far as the movement is going to be for them. I think Jason Tatum, you have to... What's going on here? We're talking football?
Just keep going, Sean. There was a terrible Sharpie throw over there.
You look at Jason Tatum. Of course, he's injured. Can't really trade him. That's really the face of your franchise. I think after that, it's really going to depend on what value can you get. I think teams are going to express a lot of interest in Jrue Holiday. Teams are going to inquire about Kristaps Porzingis. Teams are going to inquire about Jaylen Brown. And I think the Celtics are going to have to identify what value can we get for each of these players. Which player does it make sense to trade? Is there anywhere where we can get some players back that can help right now, potentially help us moving forward? We can get some assets for. This team probably isn't going to be in the same place as far as contention.
Yeah.
But listen, you have Joe Mazzulla as your coach. You still have a chance potentially to get Jason Tatum back at the end of the season. If you keep Jaylen Brown, he's a guy that you have a lot of faith in to lead this team.
$300 million.
So I think they're going to do a lot of things to retool this roster.
Sure.
But again, there's a lot of question marks around Al Horford's future, Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. We said it on this show. The Celtics will explore trades. They're going to make moves this summer.
Okay, again, Shams on Pat McAfee. Thanks, Shams. We'll take it from here. I mean, we've been doing it every day anyways. Breaking news, not to anyone around here.
It's for the national audience.
It's for the national audience.
Maybe they're not up to speed.
Someone's in Sheboygan right now whose mind is blown from what Shams said. So Celtics could move for Giannis, which I love. So, of course, the fans' tweets start rolling in here. Everyone's GM now. Everyone's Brad Stevens. We're making moves. We're trading Jaylen Brown. for KD.
Yeah.
So here you see the tweets rolling in. But as for you and I, my friend, why don't we play this game?
Sure.
I mean, I think most of us feel as though Porzingis and Holiday, at least, are almost foregone conclusions that they're gone. Even, I guess, maybe Al Horford, although Horford could say, I'm a Celtic. I love it here. We'll work out the money. I'm not going anywhere. That could happen. But I think Porzingis and Holiday, to most of us, feel as though it feels inevitable they're going to be moved.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, we've heard all about the second apron and all the money that the Celtics can save by trading those guys. It's important. I think it was a priority before the Tatum injury, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me
right?
too. Me too.
Let's say they win the championship.
Yes. Bills are still due.
Right. You got a new owner coming in.
That's right.
Right? So, I mean, there are a number of different things outside of what happens on the court. It's the business part of it, too.
Yeah.
But, in terms of moving forward with, how things ended up playing out, Tatum, you heard Shams talk about he could come back at the end of the year?
Well, that's, I guess, medically, and I'm not a doctor. I just play one on Boston has entered the chat, but medically they claim
for a different day.
Well,
I don't know if I would like to see him on the court if this team is way out of contention.
Let's have that conversation now then, because if you're in contention, what I've said is if you don't trade Jaylen Brown and Derek White, okay, I think whatever you have around them could probably still get you in the playoffs. Now, what seed are you?
Right.
Not like play-in game. I don't see that, but I could see the Celtics as a 6, maybe a 7, maybe a 5 seed, somewhere in that kind of range. If that's the case, do you risk Jason Tatum coming back if you believe we can make a run at this? My answer would still be no, because I'm thinking of the future.
I'm also thinking of that injury, too.
That's right.
Achilles.
That's right.
That's not your everyday type of, rehab, and you'd be good to go.
Right.
There's a lot of question marks.
It's devastating.
The recovery, and if Tatum can even get back to the level
that's right.
he was at, right?
Yeah.
So that's another factor in this whole thing. But in terms of the more immediate future, yes, you got to look to trade Holiday, got to look to trade Porzingis, right? And that's sort of where you start. And then maybe you have to throw some pieces in to make a potential deal work. Mm-hmm. I don't want to trade Jaylen Brown, though. I'm not ready to do that.
So that's your line of demarcation.
It is because I still think that the Jays, and again, this is all contingent on Jason Tatum coming back to full strength, right? And so I'm going to hope, because of how old Tatum is. He's young. He's 27 years old, right? And the ability to bounce back maybe from this Achilles injury, your percentages are higher because of his age.
I also read, I don't know if this is true, but I read that the timing in which he had the surgery helps the recovery. I guess they got it done quickly.
Okay.
It was like, okay, we know what this is. Let's get in it. Remember how we were all waiting for the word? Like, is it an Achilles? Do we know? Like,
right.
I think it's because he was under the knife.
All right, so that's another check in the positive.
So that's another check in the positive.
Right. So guys like Porzingis and Holiday, you got those guys to help you win now.
Yes.
Right? And so the Celtics aren't going to win now, but they could win a year, 2 years from now with foundational pieces in place. In Tatum and Brown. And then at that point, you start looking again to surround those guys with the Porzingis Holiday type of players.
Sure.
And that's why. But trading Jaylen Brown would be saying, okay, well, now we're moving in a completely different direction. Yeah, we got Tatum back, but now we got to bring somebody back that can be the Robin to Tatum's Batman.
Okay.
Right?
Can I hold you here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Would you trade Jaylen Brown for Giannis Antetokounmpo?
So
I see the wheels spinning. You're not saying no.
I don't know.
You're telling me there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Because that time, like kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
If you trade Jaylen Brown, you're sending the message, we're resetting the championship clock here. We're going to build around Jason Tatum somehow, some way.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. You get a Giannis for a Jaylen Brown. Is that championship window not still open?
No, it is. It's open. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean,
Giannis and Tatum can work.
I guess I would. I just don't see that happening.
Well, why not? Giannis wants out of Milwaukee.
Right.
He's over it. We're not winning. I want to go somewhere where I can win. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know a team. Jaylen Brown still hasn't had his surgery yet and has said, I'm not in a rush. I need to mentally decompress. I need to talk to the organization about the plans. He's very open.
Right.
if you're the Celtics, is it worth sitting Jaylen Brown down and saying, listen, brother, like we're going to move on?
Giannis has no trade.
I don't know his contractual situation.
Because that's a factor in terms of like Giannis wanting to win.
Yes.
Right? Because he's not going to win next year.
But even with a no trade.
And you don't know how Tatum's going to come back from that injury.
Even with a no trade, the Bucks have to do right by Giannis.
Right.
You're not sending Giannis to the Pelicans.
But I'm thinking the Celtics already have Brown and Tatum.
Yes.
Right? They're already in place. I mean, from Giannis's perspective, you're coming here to an unknown.
Sure.
Right? With the Celtics trading for Giannis, yeah, maybe that would be a potential win for them. But from Giannis's perspective, if the Bucks want to do right by Giannis, is that doing right by Giannis? Trading him to a team that's not going to win next year and has a star in Jason Tatum?
I'll be honest.
Question mark?
I mean, they're a playoff team with Giannis, and they have nothing around him.
Yeah.
I mean, they have nothing. So if I'm coming to Boston and I can keep some of these pieces, if I'm Giannis, I'm thinking I can win without Jason Tatum. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not saying they will, but I would think, yes, to answer your question, if I'm Giannis, I can make it happen. And then, oh, by the way, icing on the cake, I get one of the best players in the NBA back the following season, or maybe if I get him into the playoffs.
How would Giannis coexist with a superstar?
So
right? That's another question.
We
already know how Jaylen.
It's a great question. My answer would be Jason Tatum's the right superstar. You with me? Mm-hmm. I don't think Giannis can exist with just any. He's not going to exist with Anthony Edwards.
Right.
Because Anthony Edwards wants to be the guy. Jason Tatum's already proven he can coexist with a superstar. He's already proven that. And I think Giannis has a very similar kind of mindset to Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown would be the one to be like, I ain't going to Milwaukee, which could throw the whole thing off. And maybe all of this is fantasy basketball. So let's stay there for a second as I pose you this question. Back to Jaylen Brown, who I know you don't want to trade, but I'm going to try to talk you into it. Would you give up Jaylen Brown for the #1 pick to the Mavericks and bring in Cooper Flagg and he stays home?
Yeah, I would.
You would do that?
I would.
So you hezzy on Giannis, but for Cooper Flagg, you're in.
I hezzy on Giannis because Giannis is already an established star in the NBA. And there's a question mark. Even the great point that you raised that Jason Tatum might be the right star to play alongside Giannis.
Yes.
I don't know that.
Okay.
I would be more willing to bet that a young player in Cooper Flagg, who's also a Dookie, would be more than willing to defer to Jason Tatum. At least in the beginning of his career, right?
Look.
And the potential of Cooper Flagg, and obviously being the hometown kid.
Yeah, oh my God.
Right?
Ticket sales, all of it. New owner.
And the excitement surrounding that.
Yeah, the problem, I think,
he's so young,
is the Mavericks would tell you, kiss my bumper.
Oh, well, that's not
That's why I say it's fantasy basketball. Because the Mavericks are like, we ain't doing that.
Giannis is more likely to come to Boston than Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, yes. That's a fact.
Right?
Yeah, and it's all fantasy, potentially, but yes.
Yeah.
I don't see Nico Harris, who's already has 9 lives.
Can you imagine?
Oh. Bro, he has 9 lives already.
For Jaylen Brown, who's got like a knee surgery potential.
Dallas fans, I don't even want to say what they do.
Wow.
Bro already has 9 lives. He still has a job now after trading Luka.
Yeah.
If you gave up Cooper Flagg for Jaylen Brown, to your point, who probably wouldn't even want to be there, A, let's talk about that. B, the knee. So what, you trade for a disgruntled Jaylen Brown and you give up Cooper Flagg. Bro, still to come on Boston has entered the chat. It's not football season yet, but there's still plenty to talk about with the Patriots. Adam told you at the top of the show, some people are on the hot seat on this offense. We'll tell you who we think it is next on Boston has entered the chat. That's fantasy basketball, bro.
Funny.
Welcome back to Boston has entered the chat. If you are ready for some football like Adam and I, please get involved. You can always email us to chat@nesson.com, tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat, or give us a call, 617-790-0928. You know what, Adam? We do have a voicemail. Our esteemed producer, Ethan, tells me we have a voicemail on the Red Sox, so we'll be playing that next segment. How about that? The people.
Yeah.
We are men of the people, you and I.
Yeah.
Huh?
Esteemed, huh, Ethan? All right.
You're on that?
Excellent.
I said all that.
Esteemed.
I said all that, and you keyed on esteemed producer.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the voicemail, too, of course.
All right, let's talk some football before we get the Red Sox in the next segment. Obviously, Patriots, a lot of expectations. If you look up right now, I mean, Bruins are in a retool.
Yep.
Red Sox will be kind, trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Celtics are a mess. I mean, are the Patriots? Is Drake May right now sitting back like, yeah, look at me, ID captain now? They're kind of like,
not.
I mean, but Adam, in
Yeah.
terms of like, I guess expectations, hype, maybe results.
Well, yeah, I mean,
kind
I
of
think
feels like the
people-
Patriots.
All right, and it's all relative, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the excitement for the Patriots, they haven't been good in a while.
Right.
It's been a long time.
Good point.
So, I mean, not to be a wet blanket on this, which I just did, but I mean, Drake May has what, 11 starts under his belt
Right.
in the National Football League?
Yeah.
And is now in year 2, getting a new head
could be a
coach,
little early.
Getting a new offensive coordinator.
Could be a little early.
Right?
Yeah.
Might be a little bit early. And not to say that he won't thrive, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to put the eggs in that basket.
I think that's a great point. In fact, I've heard a lot of Patriots fans, which this time of year you're supposed to do, but I've heard a lot of Patriots fans suggest, what if Drake May's like top 10 quarterback, this team's going to the playoffs? In that theory, I would agree with. If he's top 10, yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
The Pats are back. But I don't know if that's realistic. And that's why hearing you say that, it jumps out to
The
me.
Patriots did the right things in the offseason. They had a
Yes.
great offseason.
Yes.
They surrounded Drake May with some offensive talent. They also gave him an offensive line.
That's right.
Right? So that's a great jumping off point. They're setting him up for success. And they also brought back an offensive coordinator who's had a lot of success here.
Yes.
As an offensive coordinator. Not
That's
as a
right.
head coach elsewhere, but as an offensive coordinator in New England, Josh McDaniels, you can't argue that.
No, you can't.
Look what he did with Mac Jones. Right?
Well,
Year 1.
I mean, he deserves
Seriously.
all kinds of prizes for that.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about the offense deeper then. I mean, as we look around Drake May, because we know he's set, they're building around him. Offensive line, still some question marks.
Yep.
Wide receivers, a whole lot of question marks.
Yeah.
The running game, we'll see. If you had to almost break down who's on the hot seat offensively, where would you start? Whose seat would be the hottest on the offense?
The hottest, I would say the two second-year wide receivers.
Polk and Baker.
Yeah, I would say based on the expectation you had especially for Polk last year, I
Yes,
think, right?
yes.
Didn't live up to that. A lot of drops.
Yes.
I think they had 13 catches between the two of them.
They didn't do anything.
And I think Polk had 12 of them.
They didn't
right?
do a damn thing.
Right. So I think they're on the hot seat because of the fact that you brought in guys this offseason. You drafted Kyle Williams.
Mm-hmm.
You brought in Stephon Diggs. You brought in Mac Hollins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mac Hollins is not a superstar wide receiver, but again, a veteran wide receiver who maybe won't drop passes.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not counting Kendrick Bourne in this because I think he's gone.
Oh.
I think he's gone.
He's
Because
not making it
they're
through
gonna save
camp.
like $5 million they cut him before June 1st.
He is well, then his seat's the hottest because
No, I know.
between now
but
and through
I'm not even
camp,
considering
'Cause you think
I
he's
think he's
gone.
off the seat.
right? Right. It's
no
ready.
seat.
Yeah,
It's been pulled.
He's boiling.
Yeah.
Take it off. You're out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. I like Polk and Baker because you have to get something out of them. I always talk about this. That draft class
Yeah.
in totality, outside of Drake May, which by the way, I love Drake May. I don't want anyone to take this
yeah,
wrong.
absolutely.
But at the same time, I'm not giving you a cookie for drafting Drake May. It was obvious.
Right.
The stupid thing to do would be, you know what? We don't want Drake May. We're going for J.J. McCarthy. That would be dumb, okay? And I think we would all agree on that. They did the obvious. Caleb was gone. Jaden Daniels was gone. Drake's just as good as those two. Take Drake. And they did it.
Yep.
So even that pick, I'm not really like, I'll never look back and think, boy, the Patriots were so smart to take Drake May at 3. No, it's what you were supposed to do. And the rest of the draft class was trash so far, starting with these wideouts that you're talking about. So I get you. I'm going in a different direction. Okay. Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay.
I'm almost to the point where you are with Kendrick Bourne. Not that he should be off the team, but I'm convinced he's not going to be the starting running back. I really do. I think Travion Henderson, who's a guy at Ohio State who they shared carries. He came from a running back by committee. So in theory, it makes sense if you're going to go running back by committee here now, because he's used to that. But I think the kid's good enough, and we've seen this in this league over and over again with young backs. It's not wide receiver. It's not quarterback. It doesn't take you long. Run the ball, okay? Hit the hole, know your pass pro, and you're good. Running backs, they're like this.
They are.
So I'm looking at Travion Henderson, and that's really the storyline I'm watching when we get to camp. OTAs are cute, But when you get to camp, it's real football. That's when football season starts for us. I think this kid could end up being the starting running back, even if you run the ball by committee. So I'm looking at Ramondre Stevenson as like, you got to put up or shut up now. I've really only seen one good season from you in the last 4.
Got him the contract.
Got him the contract.
$17 million guaranteed.
Outside of the bag of moolah that he's got, what I really have to show for it is one good season, a lot of kind of nagging injuries, and then some fumbles
towards the end of the year, right?
I'm just saying, Adam.
Antonio Gibson got the bulk of the carries.
That's right. Who also has fumbling issues.
Right.
I think,
what does that tell you?
That's what I'm saying. I think Travion Henderson has an opportunity. If I'm him, the rook, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Well, it's my time.
We had seen, I mean, with Stevenson, Damian Harris was a starting running back in New England, and then all of a sudden, Stevenson comes in, they start splitting the reps.
Because
Damian
it's
Harris,
running backs. That's the life. If you're not, I don't know, who are the names? Bijan Robinson, right? Like Saquon Barkley. We know the names. If you're not one of those guys, Derrick Henry, like, it's not a foregone conclusion. This is just your job. I get it. That's what we're used to. But I want to see this offense be dynamic. Travion Henderson's here because he's a home run hitter as a running back. We'll give him some carries. Let's see some home runs. Can he play for the Sox, too? I could use that. Was I out of bounds? I'm sorry. Was I out of bounds?
Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. OTA's continuing this week. Mini camp right around the corner.
But for us, it's training
It's training camp.
That's when football season starts.
Yeah.
And again, I know I was disrespectful saying all this is cute with OTAs, but it's training camp. Yeah. That's when it's real. How many Patriots camps did you cover along the way?
Oh, a few. You know, because, I mean, I've been in studio a bunch over the years, so I didn't go down all the time. But I do remember going down a mini camp back in the day, and Rodney Harrison was not friendly to me, man.
Wow.
He was not friendly to me.
Wow.
Which is okay. I'm fine.
I don't think he's the friendliest of cats.
Yeah, and I don't have any ill will towards Rodney, but I remember being a young reporter, going down there. I asked a question at the same time that a reporter asked a question, right? It was a beat reporter, and we asked the question at the same time.
Yeah.
And I had said, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, right? Looking at the reporter, and Rodney Harrison looks at me. He's like, still being rude, huh, bud?
Oh!
I'm like, still being rude?
That feels personal. That's personal.
And I'd never covered minicamp before. Or he just picked me out of the crowd. He might have thought I was someone else.
Rodney, listen, we know you watch Boston is Entered the Chat.
Yeah.
Come on. We'll interview you, and you can apologize then.
Yeah, please. Come on the show.
As for everyone else.
I've been waiting for 20 years.
Thanks for watching. As always, we love you. Stick with us on Nessa Nation. We have another hour there. Remember, get the latest up-to-date live. We've got Boston sports headlines along with your daily dose of trending sports and social topics every weekday on Boston has Entered the Chat. Catch us live at 8 a.m. on Nesson and 9 a.m. on Nessa Nation. That's every Monday through Friday. Rodney, you owe my man an apology.
Say you're sorry.
Nessa Nation, assemble! Boston has entered the chat. Good morning to all. Travis Thomas here with my man, Adam Pellerin. Let's do it. Bring it in.
Dude, it's
nice
good to see
hearty.
you, man. I see you in the content center, as we call it,
Yes.
where we're working on our respective shows, but we haven't done a show together.
It's been a while.
In a minute.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
And what's interesting about this fact that you bring up is when we're together, it's fireworks.
We have fun.
I mean, Nessa, look at this.
Hello.
Hello, we're right here. And unfortunately for us, though, we have to break down yet another heartbreaking Red Sox loss. Walk-off status, grand salami from Christian Yelich. So we'll get into that. And remember, you can catch a full hour of Boston has Entered the Chat at 8 a.m. on Ness and 9 a.m. right here on Nessa Nation. So let's start there, my friend.
Yep.
We're interactive. Email us at chat@nessa.com. Tweet at us using the hashtag NessaChat, and call us. We do have a call. We do have a voicemail we'll play here, 617-790-0928. But first, let's reflect on last night's loss.
Sure.
I mean, Sox were right there. How many times have we said this recently? Right there. Got them on the ropes. All for naught. In the end, bases juiced. Christian Yelich, great player. I read this morning, this is his first career walk-off. I'm like, how?
Wow.
I know he's had injuries, but when he plays, he's a fantastic player. First career walk-off. He breaks all of our hearts. Game over. Losers of 4 straight, Adam.
Last night looked familiar, didn't it?
It did.
Not able to score runs. 5 runs in the last 37 innings.
Pitching held up.
Yep. 4 for their last 49 with runners in scoring position. They lead Major League Baseball in runners left on. Now that means you're generating opportunities.
Yes.
Runners on base, but you're not able to bring them home, and that's been the issue.
What a stat.
With this team. And I think that you can point to a number of different reasons. First and foremost, obviously the injury to Alex Bregman is huge.
Yeah.
Right? And since that injury, that's when you've seen the offense. Outside of, he gets hurt in the game 1 against the Orioles. The Red Sox are trailing. They end up scoring a boatload of runs after he gets hurt and leaves the game. And you're thinking, okay, well, you know what? It's nice to see him respond.
Yeah.
They win the next game. But then, we've started to see that they need him in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to go back to Tristan Casas, right? Who got off to a slow start this year. He was going to come around at some point.
Yeah.
That was your 3 and 4 hitters at the beginning of the year. That's a huge hole to fill offensively. And so then you take a sort of zoom out on this Red Sox team and you look at it and say, all right, so what is it? Why is this team that had such great expectations going into the year faltering right now?
Yeah.
Number of different reasons. And I don't think you point to the new guys.
No.
Right? The new guy's been outstanding, right? Between Bregman and Crochet and what he's given you, and Chapman on the mound, Justin Wilson out of the pen.
Buehler when healthy.
Carlos Narvaez has been a find.
All your offseason moves have paid off.
They have. They've worked.
Which is a positive. That's a positive.
Outside of Buehler getting hurt.
Yes.
He's come back. He's been, 5 innings, 2 runs last time out. Right? You can get that and a little bit more moving forward. You're good.
Yes.
The guys who were here last year that had good years, or maybe you were expecting to have good years this year.
Yeah.
They haven't.
That
right?
let you down. That's
and
a good point.
I think you look at Cedar Rafaela offensively, he hasn't produced enough.
Yeah.
Even though he's a 9 hitter, you still want to see a little bit more. You want the swing selection to be a little bit better. Trevor Story, not only, the offense, but a little bit of the defense, in terms of the range. It hasn't quite been there, right? So those 2 guys in the field, and then Christian Campbell's a rookie. And so you go into the season, you're thinking, all right, well, some high expectations here. He delivers, and now, he's a rookie, so the rest of the game is adjusted to him. And so now he has to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And then you look on the mound, Brian Bayo, right? Started the year off on the shelf.
Hasn't looked great.
He hasn't been going to get out of the 5th inning. Hasn't been able to put away guys.
Yeah.
Tanner Houck. That's huge.
That one was big because you were expecting really big things from him.
Yeah, especially after last year.
That's right. That's right.
AL Cy Young candidate.
Yeah, you're
first half of the year
feeding off of that momentum, and it was for naught.
Yep.
I think you made great points, especially about the offseason. If I know Red Sox fans right now, we're all looking for silver linings. That's one of them. Right. I mean, the offseason, which we all loved and we thought would take this team over the hump, get into the postseason, still could. We'll see. It's time, but that has paid off. Like, the offseason was really good, and I like that you went through all those players. In terms of now and stopping the bleeding, losers of 4 straight, I think obviously, Captain Obvious here, you got to win today against the Brewers. I just think Bayo's back. Hey, here's a chance. Let's have a good outing. I'm not saying I need prime Pedro here, but come out, have a good outing. Let's get a win, a hard-fought win, because all these games with this team feels like the wins, Adam, feels like it's a grind.
It is.
And I know they're losing close games too, but with the exception of beating the hell out of the O's that one night where they put up football numbers, for the most part, most of these games are really tight.
They are.
So that's what I'm anticipating moving forward, is all these games are going to be tight. Margins for error are thin or non-existent at this point, depending how you look at it. So let's get a solid outing from Bayo. Let's get a win. You don't get swept by the Brewers. You don't win the series. That's over. But you don't get swept. You stop the bleeding of a 4-game losing streak, right? And then, not to go all coach speak, but then it's like 1 out at a time, right? It's like, let's build from there. Because I'm looking right now at the schedule. You finish out with the Brewers today, then you go to Atlanta. I don't love that. That's a really good team. But when they were here in Fenway, you didn't look terrible. They took 2 out of 3, but you looked, at that point, you looked like you were definitely still in the fight. Things not as bad as now. Then you get the Angels for 3. Then you go to New York for them damn Yankees.
Yeah.
So I do sort of see
6 out of the 9 games in that stretcher against the Yankees.
Which is not great.
He's starting
right
to
now.
play a lot of division opponents.
Yeah. So if anything, I need that spark that I'm looking for. I need to stop the bleeding. I need to turn around this ship now, so by the time I get there, we have some confidence. We have a little momentum.
Yeah, finish out the month of May strong.
Yes.
And then you got a whole new month ahead of you, right?
Right.
And that's the goal. Today is to just win today.
I know.
Get a
I
good
hate that.
start
That was
from
such
Brian Bayo.
coach speak.
It is. But that, and Alex Cora had said it yesterday. He said, we've played a lot of close games, a lot of good games, right? And last night was a close game up until the Grand Slam. The game the night before was a 1-run game.
They're all
the
close.
games, right, they are. But he said, on the other hand, he's like, it's my job to keep it positive.
That's right.
And so he's got to keep his team up, right? And so we're watching this and thinking, man, another close game, another loss. So he's thinking, well, hey, another close game. You're almost there.
Yeah.
Right? And then you win one, you start winning back-to-back, and then you put some sort of streak together.
Sure.
But again, there's a lot of question marks, it's just offensively. I think you talk about Brian Bayo, still young, again, delayed start to the season because of the shoulder injury.
Yes.
Maybe you have faith that maybe he'll figure it out. Maybe Tanner Houck will come back off the injured list, have a couple of rehab starts. Maybe he'll figure it out. I don't know where the offense is going to come from right now.
Yeah.
That's the question for me. I'm not sure, because Carlos Narvaez, as great as he's been, him being your cleanup hitter.
Yeah, you can't count on that.
Right? I don't know where the offense is going to come from, because it hasn't come from, obviously Trevor Story. He hasn't stepped it up since, the break. Again, it's only a few games, but it's been the whole season.
Sure.
Right? He got off to a great start of the year, and then just since then,
Yeah.
lead balloon, unfortunately.
Yeah. We may not have the answers, you and I.
Right.
But maybe you do. We need to hear from you. Email us, thechat@nesson.com. Tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat. Call us, 617-790-0928. In fact, we have a call. Ellen blessed our presence this morning during the show, gave us a call. Let's play it right now. Maybe there's some answers on how to turn this around for the Red Sox.
Hi, I'm calling to say, my name is Ellen, that I agree with you about Roman Anthony, but also a lot of it has to do with the Red Sox not being able to, go out and spend the money and they need 1 or 2 regulars that can lead the team like Alex Bregman did. And there are people available out there, but they have to be willing to spend the money, and that is a lot. I would say they need a hitter and another person in their bullpen at least. They need someone that can lead them, that has experience, that's a good player, and they have to go out and find that given the injuries. Thank you.
Ellen, thank you for the call. And we play all voicemails here, even the mean ones. So thankfully, Ellen was so nice. And I want to unpack this call, actually, because I agree with her. She says they're available, go get them. We're not talking free agents here. We're talking trade deadline moves. Let's just look ahead, okay? That's what she's saying. And I agree. Add a bat, add an arm for the bullpen. I'm with all that. Where Ellen lost me is you're not going to go find a leader like Alex Bregman. That's not a real thing.
No.
Like you can get a bat, you can get an arm, but you ain't getting a leader. Those don't grow on trees. Now, on the flip side, Alex Bregman's coming back, right?
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
Yeah,
he's coming back.
Coming back.
People
there's
talk
been
like
no
he's
timeline.
gone.
There's been no timeline attached to the quad strain, but
It's a
you
lengthy-
look at the quad strain from 21 and you use that as a jumping off point, I think.
What, he missed 2 months?
Yeah. 50,
Okay, so
50
it's a
games or
lengthy
so,
injury,
right.
but he's
it is
coming
a lengthy
back.
Injury. Yeah, he's
you got
coming
to
back.
tread water and figure it out till
Tristan
you get him back.
Casas is not coming back. Alex Bregman
That's
will
right.
come back at some point. I do wonder, though, what bats is she talking about?
Well,
what bats are she talking about?
I know.
Because again, they may be available, but you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
Alana Rizzo had said, well, we're still in May. That's the silver lining here.
Sure.
That's the good news. We're still in May. So there are a lot of teams that are still in contention right now.
Right.
That aren't willing to part with key pieces.
Fair.
You have to wait a little bit before.
Fair.
And then your team could look a lot different at that point.
Right.
You don't know what you're going to look like a month from now.
Or wait a second, doomsday scenario, you're the team selling off, which all of us don't want to see.
No.
Because then it
nobody
means
wants-
the season's over.
Exactly. So, in terms of the short term, you have to figure it out with what you got. And that does include Roman Anthony, because that was the other part of the call, right?
Hit a jack last night.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So I think, we've been talking about it. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I think it's the time is right. I don't know how you're going to do it.
He says a lot of lefties in that.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of lefties, but I'm not. It is.
You're saying where he's going to play.
Yes. What is that going to look like? Because I'm not taking Duran out. I'm not taking Abreu out. The only guy that I can see moving, despite how great he is in center field, is Rafaela, and you move Duran to center.
Yeah.
And you put Anthony in left, and that's your outfield, and Rafaela, utility type, or maybe Story takes a seat for a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
What that looks like. Because Rafi's your DH, right? So there's no room there.
I'm not moving him now.
Well, no.
I was put him at first. He's so good at DH. You do you, dog. You stay right there.
Alex Spear, Boston Globe, our great insider,
our guy,
had said last night in the booth when he was with Lou and Dave that he thinks within the next couple of weeks we'll see Roman Anthony. He thinks that it's the time has almost come for Roman Anthony.
I'm ready for it. Last night, I could have used that home run for the Red Sox.
And the other thing too that he brought up when he talking about Rafael Devers, Rafael Devers is he's been banged up.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, and a lot of that is attributed to his defense.
Yeah.
Right. So keep him healthy. Maybe he'll keep swinging it. Maybe this in the long run will be a good thing. I know a lot of people looked at first base. They look at the injury to Bregman now. It's like, why aren't you playing the field? Well, he hasn't been great in the field. And he's been great with the bat in this role. So maybe you find another solution there.
One out at a time. Just right? Now I'm coach speak.
Yeah, there you go.
One out at a time. Beat the Brewers today, and maybe we could just start chipping away. Chop wood, carry water.
There you go. Like I said in the earlier part of the show, maybe this is rock bottom. Our guy read on social media.
That's right.
Dark Knight, Bane breaks the Batman's back, and then it's out of the cave from there. Rise back to glory.
He did Batman dirty in that movie, I'm telling you right now. Ringside Review next. Stay with us, and remember this. Get the latest up-to-date live, baby. Every day we've got Boston sports headlines, along with your daily dose of trending sports and social topics. Every weekday on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Catch us live at 8 a.m. on NESN and 9 a.m. on NESN Nation every Monday through Friday.
Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Ethan Hrissadulu, joined alongside, as always, by Matt Kolpitz, taking a look at this past Monday night's Raw, but also we got to take a look at some of the ramifications of Saturday night's main event, because, Matt, you had a little bit of a theory as to who might be joining the Seth Rollins stable. We talked to Logan Paul, but in fact, it ended up being Bronson Reed, the big man himself. Somebody who at one point, I think, dropped 6 tsunamis onto Seth Rollins, if I'm remembering correctly, on a Monday Night Raw. But Bronson Reed joining the faction. I love it. There is so much muscle now surrounding Seth Rollins to make him an unstoppable force with this group. How are you feeling about him as a surprise guy to join the group?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I feel like it's one of those things where you don't know that you need it until, it's kind of right in front of you. And even though my whole theory is Logan Paul, I thought I was cooking. He is still involved in the Jey Uso storyline, and Jey's still getting involved in Seth Rollins' storyline as he interfered last night on Raw. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the tie-in. Maybe there's still potential if they're going to expand upon this group even further. But in terms of Bronson Reed, I thought it was interesting, as you mentioned, the point that, he, destroyed Seth with all those tsunamis, however many weeks back that was. So maybe it's a sense of Seth is all right, I know this guy's legit. I don't want to deal with that again. You're on my side. I thought it came out of left field. I feel like I didn't really see much speculation of Bronson on Twitter or just anywhere on social media. So I like it. I think when you compare the group to Evolution, as we kind of have been doing, it's very different. You have 2, muscles, 2 bronze, and I think it's interesting to see if this is the group, if they're going to add more, how the dynamic can shift. But I think overall, I like it, and I definitely was genuinely surprised.
Yeah, going back to your point of not wanting to mess around with this guy, I feel like that almost seems like the sense of what Seth Rollins is building. And this goes going and peeling back the curtain a little bit as to why Seth Rollins would be putting this group together. It feels like he's bringing in guys that he would rather not have to deal with in his pursuit of another world championship. Like, obviously, he's not going to get somebody that's very proud like a Gunther, but if you can get somebody who, to the way Paul Heyman kind of explained it, underutilized, not being put in the bright spot like a Bronson Reed, who has all the muscle in the world that you can possibly ever need alone, never mind having Bronson Reed flanking him on the other side as well. It feels like he's building out a group with a bunch of guys that the facade is it's for the future. It's obviously for himself. I think we all know Seth Rollins, being the architect he is putting together a unit that can help him succeed first and foremost before anything else. But this is looking like a faction that I think is going to potentially run Monday Night Raw starting around Money in the Bank, and we'll touch on that in a second, through the year into WrestleMania next year, because you can't have two dominating forces like this with a brain like Seth Rollins plus the mouthpiece of Paul Heyman and not have them be the centerpiece of Monday Night Raw. I feel like, yeah, there's still some stuff going on with CM Punk, and I'm kind of at the point now where I'm ready for that to be kind of moved off of, and at some point I'm hoping that ends soon. But this feels like the group that's going to be running things for a while. And that brings me to my next point that I want to ask you about here. Seth Rollins in the main event last night, obviously winning his spot into the Money in the Bank contest. He is now one of the 6 entrants into the matchup. With him now being a part of it, I don't really see anyone else, especially with the group setup that he has now the way it is, with Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, Money in the Bank, obviously, there's no disqualifications. You can do whatever you want in that type of matchup. This kind of brings me back to like when the Authority was very heavily involved in things and they themselves got heavily involved into the decision of a Money in the Bank contest. Like, what was that? Like 10 years ago now at this point, maybe more. I don't really see how anyone in the men's match comes out a winner that's not named Seth Rollins.
Yeah, man, I hear you. And it does just feel like the writing on the wall. Because from here, if Seth is to lose, where does he go? Say CM Punk is to interfere in the Money in the Bank ladder match. All right, they can have another 2-3 matches. That's starting to enter like Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley territory. We're just like, okay, like it's getting stretched. Like, let's move on. I feel like that's kind of the vortex that CM Punk has been getting into. He was stuck in a feud with Drew McIntyre for so long, which don't get me wrong, it was entertaining. But they really have been seeming to really milk and drag out CM Punk's feuds. So with that being said, yeah, I do agree. I feel like now that Seth's in the match, it kind of makes sense. I feel like the main event last night was very defining because you could have had someone like Finn Balor win. Maybe Judgment Day would continue to be the top group on Raw. But it very much feels like they're having Seth Rollins and this new little group be the center point of Raw. They're opening every single show. They're closing every single show. Yeah. These are pretty much what we're going to be dealing with all year long. So I agree. And I think the only reason we do not see a Seth Rollins victory is if, again, it's a CM Punk run-in or some kind of interference. Maybe it's Jey Uso. Then maybe a guy like LA Knight or someone that has always been pitted to win a Money in the Bank but never did could win. But I think it's probably like almost an 85% chance I'm seeing a Seth Rollins victory at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, like I look at the landscape of the Money in the Bank group right now as it currently stands, and granted there's still a spot or two that needs to be filled. I think there's 4 guys confirmed at this point. Maybe I'm wrong on the number, but I like Penta obviously qualified for it last night as well. I just don't see with what they're trying to build with Seth Rollins, and you could say, well, he doesn't need the Money in the Bank at this point. It's not necessarily about need, it's about what makes sense and what they're trying to build with this faction here. I feel like Seth Rollins not being the guy that eventually comes out on top, and you got a prime example of in a match where there's a no disqualification type of stipulation, triple threat, his guys are going to get involved. They're going to overtake the competition. And I mean, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker are basically like 2 guys put into one individually. So like you're talking 2 massive guys who will be able to help wipe out the competition. The numbers game will catch up to the rest of the group. And it's obviously, it'll be late in the match. Everyone will be fatigued. They will be overwhelmed. It just feels like the eventual winner is going to be Seth Rollins. And I'm looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong when I say this, but there is a piece of me that wishes that this maybe happened at Money in the Bank and not at Saturday night's main event. I feel like the payoff of Bronson Reed joining Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker at Money in the Bank by showing up unannounced and helping Seth Rollins win the briefcase almost would have made a little bit more sense. It almost felt like they saved a really good moment for what was a commercial-ridden, I was tweeting about it through the whole show, a commercial-ridden Saturday night's main event. And I don't know if they've all been like that, but it felt like every single match had more breaks at least break time than there was actual match time. It was crazy. But it feels like they went for the cheap pop on television as opposed to what would have made more logical sense. Because now, again, I'm excited for it. I just don't want to... I don't want to feel like I know who the winner's going to be, especially if it ends up actually being Seth Rollins. Maybe it's to throw us off the scent, sure, but right now it just feels like it's going in that direction. Now, something we need to highlight, coming out of, and I just spoke about Penta a second ago, Chad Gable, you saw it, I'm sure, taking the bump of the night. And man, oh man, I can't believe he's okay. You can see up on your screen right now. How did he not break his neck there? Because he landed head first, head tilted backwards. Like, talk about, is this match about to get stopped type of moment? And Chad Gable got up and was fine. He was taking spots not even 30 seconds later.
Yeah, man, I think that is the craziness and just the crazy nature of injuries in this business is you can have moments like that with Gable where you're like, oh, this is it. And then just last week, we were talking about the Zoe Stark injury where her leg literally snapped. So you have gruesome injuries, and then sometimes they're okay. I mean, in my opinion, it's like these are probably some of the most conditioned athletes in the world because, yes, you look at the NFL, like they're going crazy, and NBA, NHL, you name it. But WWE is, 365 days a year. They don't stop training. So I don't know, maybe that helps them just like kind of survive these superhuman moments where you're like, he should be dead. But yeah, it was a crazy botch for sure. I think Penta is still adjusting out of his AEW and kind of like indie wrestling style. Still a little bit. There's still hints where once in a while he'll hit a move, and it's like you don't see that often in WWE. So I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he was able to finish with the match, put out his tweet, and got the clicks. But it was definitely scary, and it makes me think of something like I know in AEW, like Adam Cole, like just kind of jumped off the stage and like destroyed his ankle for like almost a year. Like sometimes the fluke injuries will take you out longer than scenes that we see like this, and it's mind-boggling. But again, I don't put it past them. They're in incredible shape, and prayers and shout out to Chad Gable for getting through what he was put into last night.
Do you ever feel like Penta's trying to do a little too much in the ring coming from where he is and maybe trying to like prove a point about the wrestling style and just because I feel like, and I don't want to say I've been bothered by Penta being in WWE. That's not the right way to put it, but there's moments in matches like you kind of mentioned where it feels like you walk away going, that's not typically something you see in WWE. And I've up and down said on this show multiple times, I'm a WWE guy. That's what I watch. I'm not used to other wrestling styles. It is what it is. But like something like that, where you're trying to set up two guys at once and one of them is like a pile driver in a way, like at that point, it's just like tone it down a hair. You know what I'm saying? For safety's sake, especially in that situation.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we need to remember is that WWE just doesn't cater to the flippy stuff and the crazy style. As you said, being a WWE fan, we're so used to one style of wrestling, really. Yes, you have high flyers, but not to the level that we're seeing in other companies. I think the whole merge with AAA, the Hijo del Vikingo, however you pronounce his full name, but like he does some crazy flips, and they've been showing highlight packages of that. You're just not used to seeing that in WWE because they have eyes against it. For so long, I think it was like the pile driver and various moves were banned. They definitely like to focus on safety, the safety of the wrestlers, which of course is an incredible thing and should be a priority. But I don't know. I just think back to like when AJ Styles first came over, he was kind of struggling with the slow down pace of WWE. And I'm sure you could point to every single guy that's come from TNA or AEW or you name it. And it was an adjustment. So I do think Penta just needs to realize like he doesn't have to go crazy. He can do the Mexican Destroyer, and that's enough to pop the crowd.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be doing the double pile driver flippy stuff. So yeah, I definitely think that he needs to just take a step back, realize who the audience is now. He's not in AEW anymore. And just continue to adapt and really prioritize safety over a flashy social media moment.
Yeah, like the Mexican, like you said, like to your point, I love the Mexican driver. It's one of the crazier thing. Every single week I see it, I'm like, this is absolutely insane that he's being allowed to do this. But like clearly he's been doing it a long time. Like I trust him, and I'm not trying to say he's an unsafe worker. It's just like there is a point where things start to get a little too crazy with some of the things I feel like I see from other places outside of WWE, where I'm like, you probably don't need to be doing that. Like the Mexican driver is enough for me to pop every single time. Like I don't need the Mexican driver and like some sort of sunset flip thing you're doing with another guy at the same time. Like at some point, like where is the ceiling here? The last thing I want to touch on before we go, and I'm going to throw the question out to you because I'm starting to, I feel like maybe the rose tinted glasses are finally coming off on this heel turn with John Cena. And I'm asking you if there is maybe a John Cena heel turn problem in WWE where it feels like it is now becoming very run-of-the-mill, very standard, and it's almost becoming predictable now where every single John Cena match is in some form a title to the face at the very end. Today he did a little bit of a pivot with the I'm actually going to kick in the nether region, then hit you with the title for the win type thing. But it's becoming very repetitive. And now we have John Cena and Logan Paul being like thrown together randomly. And again, I know Saturday night's main event was on a tight timeline. I feel like the whole ending of that show was just really, really thrown together fast because they ran out of time. But like, it's Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso, Logan Paul, John Cena. It just feels like we're slamming stuff together for the sake of slamming it together right now. Like the idea of R-Truth and John Cena is funny for the memes, but it's not something I wanted one of John Cena's last matches to be. It just feels like there's a bit of staleness going on with this whole thing right now, and I'm starting to wonder when we're going to get some of those more premier matches out of John Cena for the last few appearances he has left in the WWE at this point.
Yeah, man. I mean, just to summarize what I'm about to say is I'm definitely worried, and it hurts me to be so conflicted because, going to WrestleMania, I was so hyped for Cody and Cena. Like, these are my two favorites at the moment, and favorite of all time being Cena. But I feel like the last time I was really excited about a Cena moment or match was when he turned heel. At the Elimination Chamber was when, he wins the Chamber. You're like, whoa, like he won in a kind of underhanded, non-typical Cena fashion. Then he turns heel. Incredible. From there, it's really just fallen off. And my confliction is this, and I know I mentioned it on this podcast a couple times, where like, yes, it's his character. He says he's just going to ruin wrestling. Maybe the whole point of his character and whatnot is for us to feel like this, to feel like it's underwhelming, to feel like his matches just aren't what we're used to. The big time John Cena, Super Cena, like he's just not going to give that to us anymore. So if that is just what it is on paper, okay, like I can accept it. But my whole confliction is that I don't like that concept from the start. I've always said it just feels like kind of an excuse to be lazy. It's an easy way to cut corners. Cena doesn't have to kind of put on a show anymore. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe he's just not capable of putting on the matches he used to, which at the end of the day, that's the case for anybody that's, just getting up there in age as a wrestler and over time. But I don't know, man. I'm just conflicted because I feel it. Like him fighting R-Truth, like, that was cool in 2011, but in 2025, it's like you knew he was going to just run right through him. And then now to fight Cody Rhodes again in this thrown together tag match, it really does feel lost.
Yeah.
And I do think the only other match that was solid was him and Randy Orton. I do think that was a good showcase. But again, they're older. It's going to be a slower pace, slower style. And I'm accepting it, but I'm definitely, like I said, just concerned. I don't really know what the payoff will be if Cena's going to just turn face at the end. Like, I'm excited to see how it plays out, but I will admit that the process along the way has been slow and torturous. And if that's what they're going for, fine, they're doing a great job. But if that's not what they're going for, it's falling flat.
Yeah, you did a great job putting that whole thing together. Like you took a lot of the words right out of my mouth, and I'm at the point right now where I kind of just wish that like this would kind of, like the heel turn would kind of end, because if they're going the direction that you mentioned, at this point, like I would just rather them have him turn back to being a good guy by like SummerSlam and give me some of those exciting John Cena matches at the very end. I feel like you put it in a good way. It feels lost. It feels like it's being slammed together and rushed. And I don't know if they're just waiting for something more towards the tail end of his run. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Again, the rose tinted glasses feel like they're off, and now I'm starting to get a little bit worried, but we're out of time. Matt, as always, appreciate you joining me to talk some wrestling. We'll be back next week, same time, same place for another edition of Ringside Review. As always, you made it to the end. Greatly appreciate it. Catch you later.